This scenario here is a bit more complex as external code will be needed to control the different phase of this button. As of today, Kwik only works with the release part of the button, so everything starts only when you release the button. But in this case, we need to control what's happening while pressing the button. So let's see how it works. You click the button and suddenly the timer starts. If you release it before the 5 seconds, it zeroes and goes back to the beginning. But if you keep pressing for 5 seconds, you see the release message coming. And when the release comes and you release the button, then you go to the next page. So let's see how it works in Kwik and what can be done outside Kwik with external code. So we have the same project here, just different message. We have a layer, text layer just for the second information, the timing being pressed. We have the big button, which is this big rectangle. And first thing that we need to do is to create a few variables. And again, variables will be the way to control what has been pressed or not, and how how many seconds has been passed since the pressing situation. So we have this variable that I call timed, and timed will pretty much control how many seconds has been passed since the press of the button. So I'm going to start with 0. So timed is going to be a number, value 0. Okay. Then we have another variable here. I call it MSG as message, and this is a bit more different than the way we are used to work with variables here. It's named MSG, and I said this is a formula. Okay. And the reason for that is because I have these different things here, which is this dot dot situation. In my case here, it's a formula because this variable will be will have the content of the variable timed, okay, concatenate, mixed with the letter S at the end. So when you do this in Lua, you set the name of a variable, 2 dots, and then you add another string of text. Both results are come together. So for example, if timed is 1, you're gonna see 1s. If it's 2, 2s. So that's the reason I have to set this as a formula, not as a text or a number. Okay, and then I select the pressing text, and I set this as a dynamic text, and I associate this dynamic text to the variable MSG, to the variable message. Okay, so this is the basis. Then I have the button here. The button pretty much has two things. The first one is it sets the timer to 0 again, and we are going to understand this when we see the code. But first thing here is when I press the button, the time will be 0 again. Then I'm going to start a timer, and the time that I'm going to start is in this action called act time, and we are going to see it in a second. And this will play forever, every 1 second. Every second, this timer will run again. So this is the way we are going to have our countdown pretty much working. So this is the button, as simple as that. And a very important thing, instead of using the tap here, we set this button to be a press button. Because if you set as a tap, you cannot control the different phases, pressing or releasing. So this is a press button. And this is very important because if you set as tap, you're not going to be able to do what we're going to do in a few seconds. Then let's take a look at this action here called act time. It has a bunch of things. So let's start with the if there's a condition. So here we are doing a condition, in fact, two conditions. We are asking if variable timed, which controls again the time, is equal 5, meaning that it's 5 seconds since something has happened. Okay. So we enable the second condition, which is OR in our case. So if time is equals 5 or MSG equals the word release, okay, and it's important to understand that because we set the variable MSG as a formula, we cannot simply enter a string here. If you decide just to use a string, we need to put the string under quotes. Okay, so the first question is, if time is 5 or message is released, so let's do another thing. So if one of those conditions are true, what we're going to do is we are going to set the variable, the content of the variable message to release, and again between quotes in this scenario. Okay, so if it's 5 seconds, we know that it's time for the user to release and move on to the next page. So we pretty much just update the message. Then we have an else, because we want to treat if it's not 5 seconds yet. Okay, so it's a simple else condition. I'm not going to set anything else, so it's just an else. So if it's not 5 seconds, if time it's not equals 5, we are going to set this as timed. Again, it's pick the content, the current content of timed. For example, timed starts at 0 and adds 1. And when it goes again, time now is 1. So it's going to be 1 plus 1, 2 plus 1. So we keep adding one more to the timer. And then also we added the variable message. Again, putting the content of time, 2 dots, meaning that we are concatenating everything with s. So it's going to be 1s, 2s, 3s. And then because we start an if, we end an if. Okay, this is the thing a bit more advanced that you have to do inside Kwik. So with that, we are gonna publish this project. As we will see here, nothing will work as requested. For example, if I just click the button, the timer starts and never stops. And this is something that we don't want. We want much more than that. So we are gonna need to edit the code and do different things in this code here. So let me open the code here and let's see this code together. So let's check the code of the button first. It's this part here mostly. If you can see here in line 8.1, I just have information for the on-release action. Okay. Again, this is the way Kwik works today. You cannot set different states or different phases. What we want here is if when the user releases, something needs to happen. But at the same time, when the user is pressing, something needs to happen. Okay. So what we are gonna do here is we're gonna copy this line. Okay, Control C, Control V, and because this line here, the original one, now it's not the last one, we need to add a comma. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is we are gonna tell this button, okay, on release, the action or the function that will be need to run, it's not this one here. We are gonna leave this one here for this line here, which is gonna be on press. So what we just did here was, okay, when the user press the button, this function here will be called. Okay. The thing is, as of now, the same action will be called when the user releases the button, and this is something that we do not want. We want a different function being called in this situation, and we are going to need to write this function here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to simplify things. I'm just going to add a number 2 here. So now I have on rectangle 12 event. So if press, it runs this one here, which is coded already by Kwik here. But if not, if it's a release, we need a new one. So I'm going to copy this one here and paste it. And I'm going to rename it to rectangle 12 event. So now this name here is the same as here. So when on release, this is going to be the one called. And of course, we need a different code. We don't need this code here. We need something completely different. So I'm going to open a few space. And what I did to get us a few time, I coded it already in another window. So, and this is the code that we are gonna need to run when the user release the button. So let me explain this code for you. So the first thing that we need to do is to check if the content of the variable message equals release, because if it equals release, we know it's time to send the user to another page. And the way we do that is we dispose everything from the memory, so this way the next page comes clean. So why do I need to write dispose? Because again, it's the name of this function here, which clears everything. So we are disposing, and then we are calling the next page. And this is the way, again, as you know, till now, Kwik uses director as scene management, and this is the way we do when we have this. Fortunately, in a few days or weeks more, and when we go to storyboard, the syntax will be different. But else, so if it's release and the user release, the user goes to the next page. Otherwise, else, we need to zero the timer again, because it means that the user released the button without arriving at 5 seconds. So we need to zero the timer again. And also we need to update the variable msg with timer, now 0 seconds. And then we need to update the content of the pressing, which is the line of text which shows the user how many seconds has passed. And also we need to check if the timer which controls it, and the timer name is this one here, if it exists, and if it exists, meaning that it's running, we need to cancel this timer. And this is the line that does this. Okay, how do I know the name of the timer? What I did was I kept going, and I found that this is the timer that was initiated when the user pressed the button. And when he or she pressed the button, this was the timer, the name of the timer. So I simply copy this and paste here. Okay, so this is the code that you have to create for this function. Again, it's a bit different. That's why this is an advanced tutorial. But if you understand a bit of coding or Lua, you can see that's not that a big deal. With those modifications, I'm pretty much saving it and checking back in Corona. So now if I just press and release fast, nothing happens. But if I'm pressing and keep pressing, you see the timer starts and I release it. So it went back to 0. And I'm going to keep it till 5 seconds. And then you see the release. When I release now, I'll go to the next page.